Hi, this is Marquita, and welcome to Trying to Do It All on a Wing and a Prayer. So, this is weird. I have been wanting to get on YouTube or a podcast to share some of my stories and take someone or a group on a journey with me through this thing called life. So, here we are. I don't have anything planned to talk about today, so it may be a little bit of a rant, but lately I have been thinking about parts and the parts of ourselves that we acknowledge or lock away. So I am a lot of things. I am a mother, wife, social worker, mental health professional, choreographer, artist, all the things. And it's a lot. Spiritual worker. It's a lot that I am navigating, and I'm not the only one. I'm 39 years old, so whatever XY millennial generation that is, we're doing all the things and trying to have some kind of self-care practice and have these great lives that we've dreamed of, and it's a lot. As a kid, we imagined that life would be a certain way. Growing up in one time period, now things are a lot different from how things were back in the 90s, So yeah, it's a lot. And we're just trying to navigate it. So today, I guess I want to talk about trying to navigate this thing called motherhood. So I have a daughter, she's 3. She just turned 3 recently, and she is a handful. I know I am not the only one who planned out my whole life when I was probably 10 years old. You want to get married and have a family and have this job and have a house and have a lot of money and, be happy and have your own business and do all these things, right? Y'all remember that game? Well, I don't know. We used to play MASH where, you would marry the person of your dreams and live in a mansion, apartment, a shack, or a house. I mean, that kind of, as they say, Delulu, I don't know, imagination. So here we are, close to middle age, and it's a beast, trying to, get up at, early in the morning, get the baby ready, get yourself ready, get ready for work and take care of other people and come home, take care of your family and try to make time to, do something that you like or do this other hustle or go grocery shopping and pick up this, take care of parents. And it's a lot to navigate without losing yourself and losing or forgetting parts of you. And I am trying to figure that out along with you. As a mother, so I had close to a geriatric pregnancy, but I had my daughter when I was in my late 30s, and it's a life-changing experience, I will say. It's not what I expected before, I guess, my early pregnancy or before I got pregnant or at some point, I don't know. I was asking people, what is it like to be pregnant? And what is it like to have a baby? And what is the labor process like? I was reading all the books, looking at, maybe not reading the books, but looking up stuff online, looking at different resources, looking at all the YouTube videos, trying to figure out what I needed to do to have a healthy pregnancy, to take care of this baby, to breastfeed, to do all these things. And when you're in the middle of it, some of that does go out the window. So I had to call friends, line sisters, family members to help me navigate that whole process. And I'm so grateful for that, because it was definitely a challenge. And it's like in stages that, oh, I'm pregnant, it's cute, people are nice to you, people get up for you, people help you, to the, okay, now you've had this baby, now you have a newborn, husband's going to work, you're at home with the baby, trying to figure that stage out. And I was in school and doing my internship for social work for my master's social work program when my daughter was a newborn, along with other stuff, and then still trying to figure out, okay, in the middle of this transition, what about these parts of myself? What about dancer Marquita? What about choreographer Marquita? What about spiritual Marquita? What about friend Marquita? Where do all those parts go when all my attention is focused on this new life, this new family? And so that is still sometimes challenging to navigate. And then, you go, the kids go through their little stages, and, eventually, you just learn to roll with it and ask for help. But within that, how do you not lose yourself in all these new things, all these transitions, and you're learning more about yourself, you're learning more about your partner, you're learning more about your own family. Becoming a mother showed me so many things about myself that I could not ignore. It showed me things about my mom and my father, my immediate family. It made me look at certain things differently. It made me look at my friends differently. I remember some of my friends and my sisters already, had babies years ago. And so now I'm understanding, oh, that's what was going on. Okay. Now I get it. And it's almost like that part of me that I was before I became a mother, before I became a wife, before I guess even I became a social worker, like that part of me is different. That part of me maybe got left behind, maybe looks a little different. So that's what I've been thinking about the last little bit of time. And also, I had a liver transplant in 2016, so I'll talk about that another day. But even after that, I feel like parts of me got a little shuffled around. And so here I am, right before this lunar eclipse, right before the, fall equinox, spending some time thinking about all these parts, just rambling around and remembering and recovering and relearning what these parts need, who they are, and how I want to move forward differently, and how I want to embrace all the parts of me differently in this next phase of my life. I definitely feel like I'm moving into a new stage. I mean, I'm about to be middle-aged. It's so funny because I remember when my dad turned 40 and both my parents worked together. They were engineers. That's where they met. And I remember my mom, my brother, and I got him some balloons that said 40 over the hill. And it was these like black balloons and these little, decorative type things that we put up in his office cubicle. And that just stands out in my mind as, man, I thought he was so old. I can remember thinking over the hill, and I don't know why. It just really, that day stands out in my mind, and it just makes me think of how I feel at this age, and imagining having two, I guess I was probably like 9 maybe. My brother was probably 10. So two kids between the ages of 9 and let's say 11 at this point in my life, I couldn't even imagine. So it's just funny looking back from my perspective now, my perspective then, and maybe my parents' perspective, like what he felt like getting those balloons, saying that he's over the hill now. It's just a funny thing, seeing my parents now as grandparents and the role that they play, and seeing my mom and dad with my daughter, and my mom calling me my daughter's name. It's a circle of life, I guess they say. It's interesting. I just actually got off work, and I'm working now as a hospice social worker. So I work with patients who are transitioning to death and their families, and seeing life from this perspective is also changing how I see my past, my present, and future. It's changing how I see my relationships, my goals, my accomplishments, and just kind of shaping my perspective. Seeing, a husband and a wife at the hospice unit when one of them is dying and the other one is already grieving. It's a hard thing to watch, but it's also beautiful in a way, because through all the ups and downs, these two people said, till death do us part. And then sometimes we have patients who are mothers, and their children are the ones who are teary-eyed at bedside. And I just wonder what their lives were like, outside of what they tell me, outside of what I ask. I wonder what their lives were like, and what, their life goals have been, and now that they're in this situation, how do they feel about how they lived their life? All those parts that they've had over the years with them. So as I move through the rest of my week, I'm going to be really thinking about how I'm navigating through life, and what parts I want to revisit or have a conversation with. When I'm doing therapy with clients, I use internal family systems therapy, and it's about how we create parts to protect ourselves, how we create different parts within us to not have to ever feel hurt And sometimes these parts are maladaptive, or sometimes they have maladaptive behaviors. But because we're afraid to listen to the parts and acknowledge them and give them what they need, we stay trapped in this negative loop. And so how do we free up ourselves so that we can protect ourselves without hurting ourselves at the same time? Not physically, but emotionally, mentally, psychologically. So I hope you've enjoyed this first episode. I know it's a little bit of a rant and ramble, but I promised that I would start. So this is me starting on a wing and a prayer.